Welcome to the Does This Happen to You podcast, where we explore the funny side of truth is stranger than fiction stories. Our story this week is from the book Stripped Down, A Naked Memoir by Stacey Keith. Check it out on Amazon.com. Scott's balanced on a ladder, aiming down. The shining black eye of the camera lens seems creepy and impersonal. As impersonal, perhaps, as Scott himself. He's not full of warm fuzzies, Scott isn't. But at least he doesn't hit on me. Even under the lights in Scott's studio, I'm so cold my teeth are chattering. He keeps the air conditioning cranked, so my nipples will pucker. Either that, or he's trying to keep that grayish lump and mass he calls a heart in a state of cryogenic preservation. Wearing only a garter belt, stockings, and hooker pumps, I lean back on a leather couch in the makeshift living room. In addition to an overstuffed chair, there's a fake ficus in a wicker basket and a framed watercolor of something amorphous and sinister. He gestures impatiently. "Do something else now. Can you pull one leg over your head?" I can, but the request feels demeaning, which is odd, considering the fact that I've spent most of the morning bent over a chair. I lie back and bite one acrylic fingernail, the ultimate come-hither sultriness. "Yeah, that's good." Scott snaps away with the camera. "It'll be interesting to see what happens once your photos hit, with the bush and all." "Bush?" "The fact you're trimmed, not bald." I think about this. None of the nether mounts I saw in Scott's mags was furry. I'm not exceptionally furry, but I'm not shaven either. There's something weirdly prepubescent about all the bare pussies, and something even more off-kilter and almost tranny-like when you pair them with big tits, the too improbable juxtaposition of opposites. "I'll start a new trend," I say. "A whole new fashion in south-of-the-border hairstyles. A revolutionary philosophy in lady mink." "Yeah, what will you call it?" I think for a moment. "Life Unshaven." On Friday, Scott drives me back to the airport. I huddle in the passenger seat, trying not to touch the dead fries and the jam-covered armrest. I feel as wrung out as an old sponge. My stomach is a painful hollow ache from not eating. My back is killing me from assuming, in 5-inch heels, poses you will never find in Grey's Anatomy. Even my boobs ache from being flung around like untacked ties in a high wind. He says, "So, you have an agent, right?" "What kind of agent?" "A feature agent." I think about Ed and Roxanne and what fun it was to work with them. "Yeah, well, I'm not sure I want to feature." "What?" Scott stares at me goggle-eyed. "You have to feature. That's the point of doing these layouts." I just assumed I would return to the men's club, with a greater sense of superiority, perhaps, hit the gym, catch up on my reading. Why do I have to feature? "Because you're going to be a huge sensation. Huge. Clubs are going to go crazy trying to book you." His earnestness surprises me. If I've learned anything about Scott, it's that money rules and stroking anybody's ego doesn't make him a cent richer. "What makes you think I'm going to be such a big hit?" I ask. "You're young, beautiful. You've got huge natural tits. You could easily make 20 grand a month on the road." "A month?" "Guys will come from everywhere to see you. You'll sell magazines and souvenirs. Hell, you could sell your panties and some numbnuts would buy them." 20 large? Wow. "How do I feature?" I ask. "You need a manager. There are 2 agencies that can book you into a club, but they can't help with other shit, like making sure you get paid. I suggest you go with Ralph Mercado." "Why?" "Ralph runs a bunch of girls. He takes more of the cut, but he offers the best protection. No one will dare screw you out of your feature fee." That sounds pretty good. With so much money on the line, and given my recent experience in Florida, his kind of muscle might be worth the extra dough. Can I trust the guy? Scott hangs a right into short-term parking, presses the big red button on a ticket kiosk, then waits to take his voucher. No one has ever said otherwise. Ralph's a colorful character, all right. He looks scary, but he's on the up and up. Define colorful? Scott pulls into a parking space. While shifting the minivan into park, he gives me a big grin. Think Cosa Nostra. What the hell is that? Ralph Mercado's a mobster. The minute I get off the plane in Houston, I take a cab to my favorite restaurant, an Italian trattoria where I savagely claw apart a bread loaf while waiting for the house special, penne pasta swimming in cream sauce. The waiters give me strange looks. I'd like to explain why I'm acting like a dog that's been shackled in the basement for a month, but I can't stop stuffing my face. When I get home, I barely make it to the bathroom before I throw up. It happens again 2 days later. My breasts are still sore. I miss a period. Full of sick despair, I trudge to the drugstore to buy a pregnancy test. At the checkout counter with my purchases, gum, razors, toothpaste, and, "Say, can you hand me one of those pregnancy test kits?" I feel conspicuous and slutty. Everyone in the line behind me, plus the sales clerk and whoever's watching through the security camera, can see that I don't have on a wedding band. I'm standing here all alone, not a husband or a fiancé in sight. I act elaborately casual, like maybe the test kit is for my friend, then bolt to the parking lot. My hands are shaking when I fit my key in the door. At home, I continue to shake as I fold open the instructions. 3 minutes later, test results float to the top of the plastic window. I will the thing to remain blank. There's a hot, dry sob in my chest. It's a lonely moment when a young woman, a single woman, stands at her bathroom sink with a positive test stick in her hand. You feel like your body betrayed you. You feel like you ventured down a road toward a brightly lit carnival only to find a sandlot and tumbleweeds. You feel dirty, reptilian. This is what you get for letting passion override sense. Lou and I used condoms, except when we didn't. I try to remember as though affixing blame to a specific moment might explain how I got into this mess. It probably happened that night in his car when he showed me the empty box and I told him just to pull out before he came. I was right on the brink of a massive orgasm and would have said anything, done anything. I traded 30 seconds for a lifetime. I stand looking at myself in the mirror, a sudden stranger with an awful decision to make. I know Lou well enough to believe he'd at least try to make a go of it. I could move down to Florida and get bigger and more hormonal and wildly jealous as he went to work every night. I could stalk him in the parking lot, knowing he was with me out of a sense of obligation, not love. The fact that I didn't love him either, that he bored and disappointed me, would become irrelevant. Subjugated by an overpowering need to ensure that if I was getting fat and hemorrhoidal carrying his child, he'd better not be tapping any strange ass. I can see it all so clearly, me lurking around the club in stretch pants with a virulent case of indigestion, getting laughed at by the very girls who used to envy me. Then later, after the baby arrives and we're already so sick of each other we barely speak, I can snidely tell him to have a great day at work. He goes early and comes home late these days, all while burping a colicky infant on my shoulder. There won't be time or money for gym memberships, tanning salons, or getting my roots done, so I'll probably look like an overblown roadhouse whore. But I'm sure seeing my nipples leak all over the ratty I don't give a shit anymore t-shirt will inspire a renewal of lust. Or I could stay in Houston, never tell him a thing, and raise the child on my own, like my mom did. My dad took off when I was a newborn, and my sick, exhausted mother had to go to work 10 days after my birth. With a shudder of fear, I pushed the thought aside. There is no way I can do that. I'd worked office jobs before and felt so counterfeit and trapped and desperate I wanted to kill myself. What other job am I qualified for? Continuing to strip after having a baby seems sacrilegious. I sit on the toilet lid and hate myself for letting this happen. A bleakness that is reflected in the gleaming whiteness of the bathroom tile, the drip, drip, drip of the sink, the mild buzzing of the light above, the medicine cabinet. I look at the rust-colored water stains over the drain hole of the bathtub. I look at my bare feet, my pale stomach that hides its tragic secret. I think about babies. I think about my future. In a moment of weakness, I call Lou, who actually picks up. We've had a few awkward conversations since I left, abundant in miserable silences. Already he seems unreal to me. "Miss you," he says. "I don't have great news." The pause is telling. I know he knows. Maybe he expects these calls. Maybe he knocks up every woman he sleeps with. "I'm pregnant," I tell him. "How do you know?" "I went to a palm reader. I took a magic 8-ball. Irritated, I say. The home pregnancy test results make these things pretty clear." Is it mine?" I sink into a chair, realize I'm blinking fast, and then take a steadying breath. From shock and anger comes the sad realization that Lou doesn't know me from a hole in the road. He took what I so shamelessly offered, no questions asked. Pride kept me from telling him I hadn't been with anyone for 6 months. My fear was that if I had let him know he was the only one, he might have gotten fidgety and split, or arrogant and withholding. Wearily, I say, "Yes, Lou, it's yours." "What do you want to do?" "I sure don't want to be pregnant." "Does that mean you're going to have an abortion?" Jesus, that word. I get up again and pace. "I don't know." "You want to come down here for a while?" "I don't know what I want. We could go to the beach, talk it over, have more sex." "I need to hang up now. I'm going to be sick." 20 minutes later, after pulling my head out of the toilet, I crawl to the bed and fall into a catatonic sleep. When I awaken, sadness and certainty wash over me. I lift a Yellow Pages out of my nightstand, leaf through the A's. My finger slides down the page to abortion services. My heart pounds when I pick up the phone. Twice I try to dial the number, but can't. I think about Lou, about what he didn't say, which is, come to Florida and have my child. Would I have done it? Probably not. Would it have changed anything? No. Why then do I feel so abandoned? Through sheer will, I punched the number to Planned Parenthood. I'm grateful to have a choice, even though the choice leaves me heavy with dread. 30 years ago, I would have just been another wayward girl, cheated by her own biology, farmed off to a distant cousin to have the baby, and put it up for adoption. Or I'd have scraped my uterus out with a coat hanger. Even now in certain countries, I would have been stoned to death. Instead, I'm sad and very alone, an object of pity to no one. But I've made my first grown-up decision of my life. I get my friend Bets to drive me home from the clinic. A gray mist clings like spittle to the windshield. Every few seconds, her wipers creak sluggishly, a pointless enterprise. My stomach is cramping something awful, and I'm so zonked on painkillers, the wipers become a subject of fascination to me. I keep anticipating their next sweep, and the next, and the next. Outside the window, everything looks wet and forlorn. A stoplight offers the only color in sight. Betts is busy snarking away on Lou, what a loser he is for not paying his half of the abortion. She's right, of course. Lou should have paid his half, but he didn't. Punishment, I guess, for not going to see him, for having the abortion. Who knows? I just want my body back. The clinic nurses wouldn't let me use a tampon, so I'm wearing a Kotex that feels like a mattress pad. The whole episode was so sordid and awful. I wonder if I will ever be right again. I ask Betts to pull over so I can buy a Diet Coke. She offers to go in for me, but I wave her off and limp inside. It's the same 3 aisles everywhere you go. Motor oil and styrofoam cups on aisle 1. Candy on aisle 2. The 3rd aisle is full of shit nobody wants, dusty canisters of Pringles, or greasy bags of pork rinds. The sweet, heavy odor of incense and a whiff of cigarette smoke make me want to gag. I yank open the glass refrigerator door, peel a bottle off the rack, and then walk to the register. Behind, a bored-looking Indian kid in a paper hat, an array of dirty magazines blare their lurid headlines. Big-titted freaks squat and spread for you. Fatties put the O in orifice. One magazine in particular catches my eye. My heart starts pounding. It's me on the cover of Busty Beauties. I'm tipping a red Stetson and wearing chaps, a G-string, and 2 playing cards taped to my nipples. I remember ripping the tape off my nipples and doubling over in pain. I stare at myself in amazement. It's like I'm gazing at a stranger, a cardboard cutout that looks a lot like me, but isn't. I notice how small my hands are compared to my boobs. I notice how short-waisted those boobs make me look. In photographs, my gaze is unfashionably direct. Before I realize what I'm doing, I point toward the magazine and stutter, "Jesus, that's me!" The Indian guy glances at the magazine. He gives me an appraising look. He lifts one eyebrow. Then I remember my face is ashen and unpainted. My hair is in a ratty-looking ponytail. I'm wearing plastic flip-flops. I want to show Bets the magazine, but I sure don't want to actually buy the thing. How weird would that be? What if the guy in the gimme cap who just stomped into the store caught me buying it? Instead, I pay for my soda, then hustle out to the car to tell Bets to go in and take a look. "You want me to go into that store and stare at a nudie magazine behind the counter? I made the cover." "Are you surprised?" "Yeah, a little. Why won't you go in there?" "Because it's creepy, that's why. Don't the magazine people send you copies?" "I don't know. I was told my issue wouldn't come out until a couple months from now." "Looks like they speeded it up then, doesn't it?" "Yeah. Why aren't you happy?" I give Bets a weak smile. Bets, who looks so pretty and earnest in her hoop earrings and hippie skirt. Boho before it was a fashion statement. I feel like I've got my head in the lion's mouth and it's too late to pull it out again. I kind of got that feeling too. How many magazines did Scott sell your photos to? Shrugging, I dial off the cap on my soda, take a sip, and then slowly, contemplatively, twist the cap on again. Could be 25, could be 50. I don't even own those images. According to copyright law, if he paid me a fair wage, all artistic representations are his. That means you could wind up on a dildo box? That means, now that I think about it, he could alter those images any way he pleased. You with Idi Amin? Thanks, Bets. Let's just make me sicker. Why don't we? You and Ronald Reagan. That's disgusting. But I know what she's doing. She's inviting me to play one of our favorite games, Death is Not an Option, by way of cheering me up. She's always been an up-by-the-bootstraps kind of friend. No point in wallowing. She gives me a crafty look, puts the car into gear, and backs up. Okay, a 3-way. You, Richard Simmons, and Barry Manilow. I think about this. You remember where I've just been, right? How we even got in that condition? But what I really can't help thinking is how stupid and naive I was to sign over the rights to my own images. In my eagerness to become a big glitzy centerfold, I never thought of the consequences to my own future. Magazine editors could make up whatever random bullshit they wanted about me. They could say I was 18 or 48, that I'd suck a dick for a carton of menthols, or that I like pulling trains in high school locker rooms. And how long would those images stick around? People who owned the rights to them could, legally, resell those rights to just about anyone. Theoretically, I could be in Mexico on vacation and see my own picture on a packet of tortillas, a condom dispenser, or a box of bullets. In a single flourish of the pen, I ceased to be a human being and became a stage prop, a naked one. Well, Bets asked me, if you had to sleep with one of them, who's it going to be? Is death an option? No. You're an awful, awful friend. I think about the photos. I think about the abortion. I think, what kind of disaster am I making of my life? Thanks for listening. I'm Chris Kepler, and I hope you enjoyed listening to these stories as much as I enjoyed narrating them. I'd love for more people to hear these wonderful stories, so please share and tell your friends.